All my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle paid the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice. That's why all my life, I've been grinding all my life.
Welcome to Darren and Sterling here on ESPN Kansas City, 94.5 FM, 1510 AM. Live in studio on today, we got the co-host, Mr. Sterling Holmes. Of course, he's somewhere on his private island down in Florida. Sterling, what's going on with you?
Man, I got a little sunscreen in my eyes, so my eyes burn a little bit. But other than that, I'm doing fantastic.
We're also joined by the one and only Mr. Steve Walls. Of course, he is host of the W. You can hear every Saturday on 100.1 FM at 11 a.m. Steve, what's going on with you, man? I know you're in for the vacationing, Sterling, but how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good, man. You know, I like to get sunscreen in my eyes too, man. Be on the beach somewhere in Maui, you know, hanging out.
I keep telling everybody, look, man, when you part of that top percentile class where you don't have to come into the office, you know what I'm saying, where you can just vacation and, you know, then I'll give you 30 minutes of my time only because the show has Sterling at the end of it, you know what I'm saying? I give you 30, you know, look, Steve, I want to get it to where you and I can do what this guy is doing one day.
Well, Darren, the issue is you could be taking trips to Florida too, but you have all these bad long shot bets that you miss on. There's the problem. I found out where it's at.
I agree with that. But I wish I want to just see, you know, what's the island look like, Sterling? You know, show us some sand, show us your toes in the sand or something.
See, Sterling,
I'll send a picture on the radio. You guys, of the sand.
All right, well, look, thanks everybody for tuning in. Of course, we're live on 94.5 FM, 1510 AM. Coming up a little bit later on in the show, I'll be joined by A10 Sports Director Todd Leabo, and we'll talk about the Chiefs Raiders matchup, of course, along with some of the new restrictions that the mayor has in place here in Kansas City and how that may affect Chiefs and Sporting Kansas City games in the near future. But all that being said, look, Steve, Sterling, I want to start with some NBA talk because I know that's where you all's passion generally lies for the most part. But I've got to say now, Steve, now you talked about Sterling and wanted to get to the point where you can put some sunscreen in your eyes. I want to get to the point in my life where I can turn down a $50 million a year contract extension with A10 or even the Houston Rockets, be in a situation like a James Harden is where you can turn down that kind of money because you want to get out of there. So, you know, you want to get out of Houston that badly to go to the New Jersey Nets. To the Brooklyn Nets. And so, Sterling, I want to start with you. I mean, I know the wolf that you wake up to every morning, but have you come to the point like where you can just turn down $50 million a year like that?
No, and if I'm the Brooklyn Nets, I would be very confused if you want to take on James Harden, because do you really think James Harden, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, that trio is going to work? Three very ball-dominant players. If I'm James Harden, I don't think he would even want to be in that situation because at that point, you know, Kyrie's the main ball handler and you're the second scoring option behind Kevin Durant. You turn down all this money. I don't really know what James Harden's game plan is right now, but if he wants to go to the Nets, that's a bad scenario for everyone involved.
Steve, what say you?
You know, on paper and everything like that with James Harden and Kyrie and KD. And of course, James Harden and KD have that you know, they play together at OKC, so they know each other. They're friends. But the thing about it is, and I was reading something where both Russell Westbrook and James Harden, their thing is just this. It's like, hey, you know, you got a new coach coming in here. It's kind of like you guys are in a rebuilding mode, and we're two of the top two players in the league. I mean, we don't want to sit here and go through this new coach who hasn't been a head coach before. And so it's like, you know, I'd rather just go ring chase. It's not about the money for me anymore. I want to go chase the ring and play with my homie KD and possibly make it work with Kyrie. Now, we've seen how it worked with Westbrook and KD before, and I think Kyrie's a little bit more, I can't say more ball dominant than Russell Westbrook, but you know, it's it seems that way when you look at Kyrie's reputation. I mean, he's more vocal than Russell Westbrook, and he will tell you like, "Hey, I need the ball, I need my touches," and I think that's what happened with him and LeBron.
I know we talked a little bit about it yesterday, but I'm still trying to see. Okay, he forces his way to the Brooklyn Nets. What assets are they going to? Because I know they can fit them underneath their cap and stuff if they were to trade and the numbers out. But again, I'm trying to figure out what they bring. What they all bring together collectively. Because again, they all need the ball in their hands. Kevin Durant to a lesser extent because he's more efficient when he gets the ball when he shoots because you can't. It's hard to guard him. But if you're James Harden, you like to dribble out the clock. You like to dribble 20 out of the 24 seconds out the clock. Kyrie likes to make things happen. And again, I'm just trying to figure out if you put him there. One, the Eagles. I mean, you got a brand new head coach who's never coached a minute or a second in the NBA. How is Steve Nash going to be able to mesh if they work this trade out to pull everybody and to try to bring everybody together? And then you still got to find pieces to fill in the holes and the blanks because you're going to be giving up a lot of assets, including draft picks in the future, for this to work. And there's no guarantee that it's going to work.
With KD when he went with Golden State, and of course they have Clay and they have Steph, Draymond, and those guys. So I mean, we've seen it work because I think KD is at his best when he doesn't have to have it solely rest upon his shoulders.
Yeah, but
right?
the flip side is that he just came as a free agent. Golden State didn't have to give anything up. It was just signing him, and then he fits into their system versus. Okay, I trade for James Harden, but I got a lot of pieces to get him.
And not only that, Klay Thompson isn't a ball-dominant guy. He dropped 60 on 11 dribbles. I think it's a little different, considering you're playing with Kyrie, who is completely ball-dominant. I think it's a different scenario, at least in my mind.
Yeah, I think that, they can make it. They could possibly make it work because of KD. It's like KD is. As long as he doesn't have to worry about, it's going to come down to him to win the game, and he has other options that can score their own buckets. I think KD's fine with that. The problem is, like we said, Kyrie Irving. Kyrie doesn't really want to share that spotlight, which was very surprising that he decided to team up with KD. Because he left from playing in Cleveland with LeBron when they could have, I think, gone for another ring. So. It's going to be very interesting, and I think they must have all had a conversation if James Harden is, if he's willing to take that risk and say, hey, I don't want the money, trade me now.
Yeah, but you know what, though, Steve? I mean, but you know what? The same conversation was had between Russell Westbrook and Paul George when he got down there, and we saw that turned out. Same conversation, Harden and Chris Paul, and then James Harden with the Russell Westbrook. I mean, they had these conversations, before they join up, and then once they actually join up and start playing with one another, well, things don't seem to work out in the manner in which everybody can't be like LeBron James, where they can kind of put pieces together and go out there and win you a championship. And here's the other thing that I know a lot of people are talking about. A lot of these players are trying to make these moves out to the East now versus trying to stay in the West. Now, when LeBron was in the East, everybody was trying to get out to the West, so they wouldn't, because they felt like they couldn't get through him to get to the NBA Finals. That's why Kevin Durant, went to Golden State instead of going to the East or whatever. Now LeBron's in the West. Now everybody's trying to venture out to the East so they can get there, so they can figure out the best pathway to get to the NBA Finals. I mean, is that something that we should also be looking at, as well as these players are trying to avoid matching up against LeBron during the regular season, or what?
No. Come on now, because it's not like Kevin Durant went to a bad team. He went to the West because Steph and Clay were in the West, not to try to get away from LeBron. The West has been more dominant for how many years now? About 20 straight years. The West seemingly is way more dominant than the East. I mean, the 8th seed in the seemingly wins 50 games, while the 8th seed in the East is under 500. So I don't think that has that much to do with it. One thing I want to say very quickly is, the Houston Rockets, you got to be pissed right now. You've given up everything you possibly can to land and keep James Harden happy, and then he does and turns around and says, you know what, I don't want $50 million a year. I'm leaving. I mean, if you are the Houston Rockets front office, if you're a Houston Rockets fan, you have to be pretty upset right now.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that. I mean, the money that they spent, and then of course the trade assets that you did to acquire Russell Westbrook and getting rid of Chris Paul. Now all that is blown up because now everybody wants to get out of Houston. So I mean, obviously, if you're a Lorenzo Fertitta, obviously you're asking for a king's ransom, and perhaps you can get it. I mean, there was, somebody was foolish enough to make that trade initially. Obviously, somebody else can make that trade as well.
Yeah, if let's just say you give up James Harden. I mean, it would be a one of those things where they're going to get back 4 players plus a couple of draft picks. And I mean, you would most definitely be in rebuild mode. I mean, there's not 4 players that are even equivalent to the likes of James Harden on the Brooklyn Nets roster right now. So it's one of those tough decisions that the Houston Rockets have to make. I mean, are you going to want to keep a guy that does not want to be there? I mean, he's vocally, been forthright and said it, publicly now. So it's kind of, he puts you in a rock and a hard place, and I think you have to make the move on him. But the thing about it is the Eastern Conference isn't a weak conference. I mean, you still have the Boston Celtics, you still have the Miami Heat, and those teams are very good. So I would say this: the Brooklyn Nets understand that, and they're going to try to do whatever they can to have enough firepower on their roster to make it work.
Now, I will say, as it relates to the Rockets, they're looking to finalize the trade to Portland. They're looking to send Robert Covington there for Trevor Ariza and get a first-round pick in this year's draft and next year's first-round draft pick as well. So, I mean, if that's the case, obviously they're looking. Houston is looking for ways to kind of build the team right now, and I don't want to say they're, like you said, maybe in rebuild mode, but they're all looking for ways to at least try to acquiesce to James Harden and try to show, because here's the thing, they don't have to trade either one of the players. I mean, they have Harden under contract for the next 3 seasons, and obviously Westbrook as well. So I mean, they don't have to kowtow to these players. I mean, they can force them to play out. They can force them to play out their contract and just build around them and try to hope for the best about that. So I mean, I can see things. Go ahead, Sterling.
I want to say something really quickly. Is anyone else completely surprised that it's Robert Covington for 2020 first-round draft pick and a potential 2021 protected first-round draft pick? I mean, this is I think undrafted Robert Covington. I mean, he's a great defender and all, but doesn't that seem like an insanely high amount to give up for Robert Covington?
I mean, I agree, but I mean, if you're Houston, I mean, I guess if you're Houston, you're trying to show that you're still trying, that you're not trying to quote unquote rebuild, but you are trying to put pieces in place. I mean, look, if you can get an extra first round draft pick to go along with your first round draft pick, I mean, it can't really hurt, because there is good talent out there in tomorrow night's draft. Speaking of which, I was looking at projections earlier. You've got LaMelo Ball. I guess he's thinking that he might go number 1, but I know there's another kid that's looking to go number 1. Of course, you also got James Wiseman as well. How do you all think that the draft is going to play out tomorrow night?
I think it's going to be LaMelo Ball. He's going to go number 1
to Minnesota.
I think he's the best player in the draft right now. And I mean, if you're Minnesota, you almost have to. Yeah, I hate to say it, but I didn't think that LaMelo Ball, looking, in the past 2 years ago, I didn't think LaMelo Ball would be a number 1 draft pick. He's definitely played his way overseas, and then and what he's done is he's seen what his brothers have gone through, both Lonzo and LiAngelo, and so I think from seeing that, his maturity and his growth, being overseas, playing with grown men at that young age, I think, that's what's helped him and has pushed him up the draft board.
Now, he does know he's not going to be able to take 55 shots a game, though, right?
Of course. I understand that.
Oh, okay. No, I'm just saying because, he was able to do that on his daddy's team when he was coaching. And, and even playing overseas, they were like, come on, bro, you're not going to be able to take all these shots. So, I mean, do you think he's going to be a good fit with Minnesota if he goes there? I mean, and then if that's the case, how do you see the next two picks going? Because I'd like to see James Wiseman, with Golden State, if anything, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think they'll have to figure out what they're going to do with D'Angelo Russell. I mean, because they move him. They might move him to the 2. I mean, you still have Karl Anthony Towns at the center, and I mean, I don't think it'll be a bad move, honestly. I mean, it's definitely you need another scoring guard with if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I mean, it won't be a bad move to move it off. But you could possibly part ways if this is the way that you're going to go. You could possibly part ways with D'Angelo Russell. You still have Malik Beasley. So I mean, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That contract is kind of heavy though with D'Angelo Russell. Sterling, how's this going to unfold?
I think Ball for sure goes to Minnesota. This is not a particularly, I don't think, top-heavy or extremely deep draft. It's going to be a lot different, I think, than past NBA drafts. Wiseman to Golden State just makes way too much sense. That one right there, I think everyone agrees on. And if you're in Minnesota, I have no problem taking Ball and moving D'Angelo Russell to the 2. I personally think Russell fits best at the 2. He's not a pass-first guy. He's a score-first guard. He's a very good combo guard. I mean, to be honest with you, I think he would pair very well with Ball. And then you saw Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, I think to me that makes the most sense. So I'm all for a backcourt pairing of Ball and D'Angelo Russell.
Now I'm looking at Golden State in the depth chart, and I keep forgetting that former KU Jayhawk Andrew Wiggins is on the scene because I forgot that they traded Russell for Wiggins, and so if you had someone like a Wiseman, I think Sterling, I think you and I, or maybe Steve and I may have had this conversation. If you add a Wiseman to this to this front court, granted, Draymond plays a lot of center from time to time if they have it. But I'm looking at this kid Wiseman. Of course, he's more of a small forward shooting guard type man. He's damn near 7 feet tall. But where does he fit in if he's drafted by Golden State?
He's a center. I mean, you put him as your big. In my opinion, you're throwing Wiseman at the big. It doesn't make
put some weight on that kid.
Yeah, but I mean, it makes no sense throwing him. Like for example, for Minnesota. This isn't the 1990s. 2 7-footers aren't going to work. We've seen that play out time and time again in today's NBA, unless they really are stretch guys. But he does make sense on Golden State. They are a fast-paced, run-and-gun team. He makes sense being your big guy. You can obviously rebound. I don't care how thin you are. If you're 7 feet tall, you're getting some boards. So I think he fits well in Golden State's run-and-gun offense. To me, I mean, again, that just makes too much sense, James Wiseman in Golden State.
Steve?
I agree. I definitely agree because, I mean, even though he's 7 foot, you really want to have that stretch 4 type guy. I mean, and you look in the West, in the Western Conference, I mean, there's really not a dominant big man, so to speak. Everyone has like that stretch 4 that can play center and that's able to run the floor. So, I don't see a problem with it. I mean, you have 3 scorers in at Golden State, and you have a bulldog in Draymond who can play the 4 or guard the 5. So I mean, I don't see a problem with it.
Obviously, of course, the NBA draft, that's going to be tomorrow night, 6:30 here locally. You can watch that on ESPN. I know we'll be paying attention to it to see how this goes, to see whether or not his father, LeVar Ball, will become a prophet. Now he's always said, Steve, I know Mike and I got a chance to interview him a couple of years ago. He's always said that LaMelo is going to be the best out of the bunch. So, obviously for him to go number 1 or number 2, I think that'll be the first family in NBA history to have 2 top 2 draft picks, in any league that I can think of, NFL or NHL or even Major League Baseball, to go top 2 in their respective sports. Last night, of course, we had Monday Night Football. The Minnesota Vikings, they knocked off the Chicago Bears. The Bears, with Nick Foles, the starter, has lost the last 4 games since they knocked off the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He went out with an injury last night. They fell 19-13. Sterling, I'm not sure if you got a chance to watch the game or not last night. I didn't have any money on the game. How do you think it unfolded?
So for me, this is what we all thought they were, right? No one thought the Bears were a good team. They were sitting at 5-2, and everyone goes, okay, this is the worst 5-2 team we had ever seen. The Vikings, I think, are better than their initial record. They had a very tough start to the season. Kirk Cousins turned it around a bit. I mean, I think this is what we expected. I mean, I thought the Vikings were going to beat the Bears. If you're a Bears fan, it's very confusing. You know, there are a lot of teams right now. If you look in the NFL standings at 6-3, a lot of teams that would probably surprise you, including the Raiders. I don't think the Bears have a great shot at making the playoffs anymore. I really don't. No Nick Foles. That hurts. I know they weren't winning with him, but at this point, I just don't think you're going to win at all. So this is what I thought. I think the Vikings are turning it around, and if I was placing bets right now, I would bet that the Vikings make the playoffs and the Bears miss it.
Well, the Bears are right outside there. They're right behind Seattle at number 8 right now. So there's the outside shot. But of course,
man, they're falling hard.
Yeah.
I mean, they are plummeting back to earth. And you have the Vikings who won 3 straight and actually look competent. And we've seen the Vikings make the playoffs before the past few years.
Yeah.
So, you know, just me personally, if I were making bets right now, I'm putting money on the Vikings to make the playoffs, and I'm putting money on the Bears to miss it.
It's fun. I'm actually making bets as we talk right now. Steve, your thoughts on
a lot of turnovers last night, man. I didn't think it was going to be that high turnovers, but I thought we'd get more from Dalvin Cook. I mean, he did have a quiet night. It was 90-something yards. But the thing about it is, with Nick Foles going down, I wouldn't be surprised if they go back to Mitchell Trubisky. I mean, why not? He started out this season playing very well. And if you think about it, if you put Trubisky back in, he's going to understand that, hey, I'm really going to be playing for another job on another team. So I would, if I was the coach and GM, I would kind of look towards Mitchell Trubisky's way, because you're going to get the most out of him because he's going to want to show what he has and the reason that he should not have been benched.
Now, there's new reports that Antonio Brown, was talking a little bit about it around the office earlier today. There's reports, of course, he destroyed some type of security camera and blew up on some folk, and the league knew about it as well as the Tampa Bay Bucks knew about it before they signed. So all this took place before they signed him. Now the league is quote unquote investigating this. Do you think that it's just people who are really trying to get this man in trouble, just don't want to see him succeed, or do you think this falls along to what we expect from Antonio Brown? Because remember, we didn't hear a lot from him during the season as it relates before Tampa Bay signed him, Steve.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Antonio Brown is falling into that space where you understand that he needs help. However, he's a hell of a talent on a football field, and so I think that's where he's fallen. And when you think about what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did, I mean, Tom Brady said, hey, I understand you need help, but I want to win. And so I want you to come and live with me while the season's going on, and we're going to go out and try to win the Super Bowl. Now, what's going to happen this season? Or is he still going to be staying with Tom Brady? Are they still going to be working out? Is he still going to be playing Big Brother? I mean, come on now.
Depends on whether or not they win.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're not getting the man the help that he needs. If you for real care about him, you're going to say, hey, bro, this is what needs to take place. Now I understand Tampa Bay and Bose has said if you have any other problem, we're gonna ship you out quick as we brought you in. So and then why would they bring this news out now? That's the other question, because when you think about it, he hasn't had any other issues like you said, Darren, and this thing they didn't press charges or anything like that. So why is this even a story? That was the question that I had.
I mean, I agree, but at the end of the day, I don't know if Antonio Brown is the guy that should get the benefit of the doubt at this point. I mean, we all want what's best for Antonio Brown. We all agree. No one wants to see a guy, constantly get in trouble and lose his chance and all this stuff, because he's an amazing talent. He's so fun to watch. But, at some point you have to say, this dude does not get the benefit of the doubt. He's been in trouble so much time and time again. At some point you have to say, you know what? it's not worth it. It just isn't. He needs help. Football's not going to be helping him. At some point, you need to say he needs professional help because he is seemingly in the media, in the news, nonstop, and not for a positive light.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. So now, Steve, is again, I'm guilty of this. I'm sitting there making bets and looking at some of these odds, but I did send both you and Sterling's information earlier today, and that Patrick Mahomes has now overtaken Russell Wilson as the favorite to win the regular season MVP awards. Now, are you all surprised about that, or Steve, are you still pulling for Russell Wilson to win this award?
I've never pulled for Russell Wilson. I said, and when you asked me that question, what was it, 3 weeks ago? At that point, the way that Russell was playing, yeah, if the season had ended then, of course he would have been the MVP. But I said at the end of the season, if Patrick Mahomes throws anywhere near close to 5,000 yards and to say 45 touchdowns, he would win the MVP. And not only that, he's winning right now. Russell Wilson has he's lost the last 2 games?
3.
So the last 3 games. So I mean, there's no way you can't go against Patrick Mahomes right now. However, let's just say if Pittsburgh runs the table, do you then look at Big Ben? Do you then look at Big Ben as the front runner for MVP? So I mean, there's still a lot of scenarios out there because I still feel like Alvin Kamara, if they are able to win out, I think he'll be in the running as well.
So you said I should put $10 on some of these long odds, huh?
I would.
I bet you would. Go for it, Sterling. Get him.
McCaffrey won 1,000 and 1,000 last year and didn't even come close. Alvin Kamara has literally 0 chance. Travis Kelce has a better chance of MVP than Alvin Kamara. But right now, honestly, Russell Wilson may have fallen behind even guys like Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, like you said, Big Ben. I mean, Russell Wilson has played very poor the past few weeks. Mahomes is for sure the front runner right now. I would be, I would find it hard to see Mahomes falling at this point. Mahomes looks so consistent. The touchdown to interception ratio is just historically good. I mean, if I were placing bets again, you got to go with Mahomes. Russell Wilson is just falling off right now, and it sucks because, I love Russell Wilson. To me, it's a crime he has not gotten a single MVP vote in the history of him being in the league. But, Darren, you said it perfectly. He always seems to start off hot, and then, all of a sudden he goes down the hill and he just falls off. And it looks like we're seeing it again this season.
Couldn't have said it much better than that. Before we get out of here, gentlemen, I got to ask as it relates to this MVP stuff. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is going to be on the center stage Sunday Night Football. I still don't believe that they're going to make any cancellation or reschedule anything. We know that as of right now, Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher are on the COVID-19 list, along with McCole Hardman. Is this a big enough game for someone a la a Skip Bayless, where if I didn't realize that there's actually some college football on tonight, so I might have to play some bets on that. But do you think that this is a big enough game, primetime game, Sunday night? Chiefs are number 2, Raiders are number 5 in the AFC playoff race. That if Patrick has a big game, this should kind of not seal the deal, but actually make room for separation between Patrick and everyone else in this MVP race.
I mean, I don't think it's a big enough game, no, for him to create that much separation. Although there is a lot of bulletin board material about, Raiders taking the buses around, parading around the stadium and things like that. However, the Raiders aren't a good enough team just yet. I mean, of course, they beat them the first game, and I just think they caught the Chiefs slipping. However, I don't think it's that big of a game. Now, had they been going into playing Tom Brady or Tampa Bay, then I would say that if Patrick Mahomes goes out there and just demolishes Tampa Bay, I would say, okay, then you got to look at him as the front runner, and he's going to just pull away. But not the Raiders; they're just not that good yet.
The one thing I will say, Steve, is the Raiders are 6-3. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 6-3. If the Chiefs and Mahomes have the same game as they did against the Jets, say Mahomes throws for 350 yards and 5 touchdowns, I do think you'll look back at this game and say, this is where Mahomes just completely took off and this is where he won the MVP. And I do, because this game has been circled not only on Mahomes, but the entire Kansas City Chiefs team. When you lose to the Raiders and they circle around like it's like that was their Super Bowl right there. When they do that, you're coming back off of a bye, you're dropping 50 on them. Mahomes is going to come out, and if he throws the ball 55 times, which I sure hope he does, I want to see him go for 400 yards. I want 5 touchdowns. I want to see him just completely dominate the Raiders and just put an end to all of this.
All right, well, we'll talk more about that after the break with Todd Leabo. We'll take a quick time out. You're listening to Darren and Sterling here on 94.5 FM, 1510 AM.
At Crown Toyota,
we really are doing something that we love, and that's making people happy.
Because that's how we've always done it.
And that's how we'll continue driving forward.
Epic made possible the 2021 Tacoma. 1.9% APR for up to 60 months or $1,000 cash back. Excludes TRD Pro. Does not include $299 dealer fee on approved credit. See dealer for details. Offer ends 11/30/20. Crown Toyota, 3400 South Iowa, Lawrence, Kansas.
If you have sleep apnea and struggle using CPAP, it can leave you feeling tired, irritable.
That's the cutest puppy I've ever seen.
Fatigued.
Can someone please help me lift this tissue?
Forgetful.
Who put this banana in the toaster?
You did?
Oh, yeah.
And even impact.